Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Data Science Hangout. I hope that everybody's having a great week. I'm having an awesome week. We are in Palm Springs, California for our work week. So most of the Posit company is all out here just kind of working together and just getting to do fun things with each other because we don't see each other all the time. But if this is your first time joining us at the Data Science Hangout, so nice to meet you. I'm Rachel. This is an open space to chat about data science leadership, questions you're facing, and getting to hear about what's going on in the world of data across different industries. And so every week we feature a different data science leader as my co-host to help lead our discussion and answer questions from you all. So together we're all dedicated to making this a welcoming environment for everybody. And we love when we can hear from everyone, no matter your background, level of experience, or area of work. It is totally okay to just listen in. I was actually just telling this to some of my coworkers as well. But there's also 3 ways you can ask questions and provide your own perspective on certain topics too. So you can jump in by raising your hand on Zoom. You could also put questions in the Zoom chat. And feel free to just put like a little star next to it if you wanted me to read it out loud instead. And then we also have a Slido link where you can ask questions anonymously. And then if this isn't shared in the chat right away, I'll put it there in a second. We do share the recordings of each session up to our Posit YouTube and our Hangout website, so you can always go back and rewatch or share with friends. One added note I just wanted to throw out here, if you are hiring, feel free to share that in the chat. I never see that as like spammy or anything. Like if you want to share any open positions there, feel free to put them there. But with all that, I'm so excited to be joined by my co-host, Emmy Zambada, Assistant Vice President of Annuity Distribution Intelligence at Nationwide Financial. Emmy, thanks so much for joining us. I'd love to have you just start by introducing yourself, maybe a little about your role and something you like to do outside of work.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. And definitely jealous because you're in Palm Springs. I'm here in freezing Columbus, Ohio with some snow. So definitely, I wish I were over there, but very happy to be here with all of you. And I appreciate the time. And as you say, Emmy Zambada, I work for Nationwide, not the property and casualty, the auto insurance. We work in the financial services. Specifically in annuity. I've been in the company for over 4 years. I've been all over the place in working for Whirlpool, Siemens. I started my career or education in accounting, but life takes you to places, and now I lead the what we call the distribution intelligence team. That is nothing else but using technology and data analytics to support our sales teams to be more effective and efficient. So again, thanks for having me here.
Thanks for joining us. And what's something you like to do outside of work?
I like reading. I like have a beer. I go with cheap beer, Bud Light. I like sports, and I have a little boy, and I spend a lot of time with my wife and the kids. So yeah, and not a lot of free time, but whenever I can. Definitely, like to travel, go places, visit Mexico. I'm originally from Mexico.
That's great. So, Emmy, I know when we were speaking briefly before the Hangout, you mentioned a lot about people's development on your team and how you get joy out of helping people develop. And I thought that would be a fun place to kind of kick off the conversation and just learn a little bit more about how you do that with your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely passionate about personal development, helping people with their careers. Nationwide, we have over 150 data scientists, over 200 data engineers or data related roles. So it's a big group, and it's known that in the data science space, people are mostly introverts. They like to be heads down coding, and they do amazing things, but one thing they're not very, naturally good at is thinking about the career, building a personal brand, networking, things that are really important as you build your career, right? And as you have aspirations to become a future leader. So I'm naturally an introvert, but probably push myself to be out there and building relationships. So I always tell people that it's very important. Get the work done, get the results. Results are what matter, but also it's important to be out there, build, these meaningful relationship networks, and don't be shy about connecting with people. You never know, like you will make a new friend, you will get into a new partnership, a new like whatever that might be. One thing I wanna acknowledge here, and before we continue, Rachel, is I don't wanna ignore the situation that happening right now in America with Tyre Nichols and the not very good news happening with the Black community. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge that, we support them. One thing that we do, I feel very well at Nationwide, is the diversity and inclusion. So helping people from all different backgrounds and ethnicity and races. So I want to make sure that we all acknowledge the situation that is happening and support organizations that help those groups. So I'm wearing here my hoodie from Latinx in AI. I'm a big fan of that organization. I try to help them as a Latino, but then I want to make sure that if you have the means, anything can help. Right, being a mentor, financially supporting. There's a lot of groups like a Woman in AI, Black in AI, AI for All. You name it. So go out there, support those groups. I think, and do whatever you can to support that community.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Emmy. And if you have some links, I know you just mentioned a few groups too, but if anybody wants to share some of those links in the chat so that we all have them here too, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see we're starting to get a few questions in from the chat, and Jared, I see you just asked one. Do you want to jump in? I see you unmuted, but I can't hear you yet. So I can ask it.
I can see the question, so I can just read it.
It's okay. I'll read it. But the question was, with buzzwords like ChatGPT, has AI impacted your workflow as of now?
Yeah, specifically with ChatGPT, we started using in a limited way. To be frank, there's a lot of great stuff about that technology and that tool specifically. There's a lot of things that we need to make sure, right? Like privacy, security, making sure that it's used appropriately, and we don't risk or data or secret sauce the code. So we have used it like we use Google and Stack Overflow and the many other tools that are out there. So I wanna make sure that we want to make sure that we do it in a meaningful but educated way. So we've been trying to we release some statements about what is it, how to use it, where not to use it, and but definitely evaluating what is coming in the future. I think there is AI in general has impacted your workflow. Absolutely. We started doing AI and machine learning models over 10 years ago, like probably a lot of the big companies. We have a lot of models in production, producing results. We have a patented model factory in place when we have all the AI models implemented. So there are many, many different ways that we use them, from underwriting, pricing, claims, acquisition, you name it. So we can always get into any specific detail, but definitely, it's one of the many ways we use it.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody, we shared the Slido link in the chat too, if you wanted to ask questions anonymously. But if you just join, feel free to just raise your hand on Zoom, or you can use the Zoom chat as well. But something I also wanted to ask you about, Emmy, is in the Hangouts, we talk a lot about communication across the business. And I know this is something that you focused a lot on, like bridging the gap between data science and the business. And I'm curious if you have any tips for all of us.
Yeah, big part of my role now, and I'm fairly new in the role, like 3 months, but even my previous role, I was leading the advanced analytics team, that it was kind of the translators in between the business and the data scientists. And even now I'm as a data intelligence, I'm in between ourselves people and data scientists or business intelligence team. I think one thing that is really, really important is understanding the business, understanding the people using the different technology that we have. And I will split it in 2 ways. So one is the leaders, and the other one is the frontline associates or people, in the field. So you need to understand both. You need to make sure that both are good with whatever you plan to build. And let me start with the leaders. So definitely, you need them. You cannot ignore what they want. They know about the strategy. They have the funding, right? Money is very important. So without money, it's very hard to do anything else. So make sure that you understand where they want to go, what they're planning to do, what are the challenges they face, what are the things that they want to achieve, and ask questions and get to know them personally. I think that helps, get closer to their heart, and explain what you do and how it works, but knowing that they don't live in our world, they don't want to learn all the stuff that we know, because they don't have the time, and their focus is to run the business, not to understand AI and data and analytics, but knowing what is enough, so they can get a good sense of what we do, and they can, they can relate and think about how that can be used for the work that they want to be done. So again, not to be a brown nose like it's said out there, but really important to know them and get to understand them. And then you have the frontline people, like salespeople, call center, whomever is going to use the technology that you have, make the things easier for them. Don't build something and say, but they need to figure out how to use it, because they're not going to use it. They are busy. They have a lot to do. They have very tight metrics, whatever else, whatever that is, like a sales goals, call they need to handle, whatever that might be the case. So you need to make it very easy so they can that doesn't drastically change the work they do. Think about like Netflix. When you watch Netflix and you have recommendations, you just watch TV and then you just get the different recommendation, and you just select that. So you don't need to know what is going on there, or you don't need to understand the algorithm or change the way you watch TV. It's just a helpful tool. So for all salespeople, we tend to make mistakes, right? We give them a lot of information, a lot of data points, a lot of dashboard, and we overwhelm them. And then they get to the point that they don't know where to find it. They don't have the time to look at it. They get, there's too many data points that they get this phrase with all these dashboards and situations there. So we need to be, instead of giving them a lot of dashboards and cool visualizations and things that they might not even look at it, because again, they get overwhelmed, tell them what is the action, right? Like who they need to contact and why, and tell them, what to do next. So they start the day and say, all right, what do I need to do? Okay, you gotta call these people, and you're gonna talk about this, and you're gonna then do these activities. And a little bit of why helps in simple English, definitely. Don't build precision and accuracy and anything like that, or don't share those things. But you need to build the trust. Like, for example, things that ways to erode the trust is you tell them, hey, contact this person and the phone number is wrong, or contact this person and the person is no longer working for that company, or hey, do this and they try it and and that doesn't work. You're gonna lose that trust, and that's not definitely not good. So make sure your data is good. You test, you validate some of the things you're sharing, and ask for feedback, right? People forgive if you give them something that didn't work or the data wasn't good, but if you are arrogant and you say like, but you gotta use it, and I'm sure what I gave you is good, they're just gonna ignore it, in the future. So again, start with your leaders, understand them, get closer to them personally, professionally, and then but don't lose, don't lose the focus on the end user.
I love that. Thank you. And when you say don't like overwhelm them with dashboards, how are you serving the information to them?
So the dashboard, I see one of the comments that by dashboard, yeah, it's I think there's nothing wrong about having dashboard. The problem is that you need to share with them what is really meaningful for the work that they do, keep it simple, and if they want to get more detail, probably have a way that they can drill into details, and be specific on what they need to do, right? Like if you say, hey, here is a dashboard and you can see how much they sell and the opportunities and what can be next, but be very clear on what is the you're asking for, the acts or the expectation, right? Hey, you're gonna start talking from here to here, and this is why, and this is some data points that might help you with your conversation. So keep it simple like that, and if they want to explore more, give them the opportunity to explore more. Some people still like to get it in Excel and play with that, so it's okay. But be specific, and don't make it too like a black box that they don't understand what's going on and why.
Marlene, I see you asked a great question in the chat a bit earlier. Do you want to jump in?
I actually think, Emmy, and you actually kind of answered it already, but I was just curious, really, I struggle with the C-suite in my organization. I can give them flashy because flashy feels like it's new age and bright and shiny and look at what the 21st century can bring you. But you try to drill in, like, here's the takeaway from what you're looking at. The only problem is I have severe anxiety about live demos. So I was just curious, do you prefer live demos maybe, or that question was way more open-ended than what I'm getting into, but that was the idea. Something vivid and moving, or do you prefer static and something that they can just kind of stare at and take in and really kind of get everything that's on the screen?
Yeah, and great question. And I don't think there's a magic formula, but I will tell you that the higher you go in the organization, the more you behave like a little kid. The attention span is very limited, right? They have so many things going on, so much stuff that they need to handle, that if you put a lot of things or you try to demo something more very complicated, you lose them, and it's very hard to get them back, their attention back to what you want them to do. So like a little kid, right? You play with the little kid and they get bored, and they move on, they do something else. And you say, no, but here is this other toy. And they're like, they're on something else. So I think the leaders a little bit behave like that, right? So you need to be, hey, what they really care, what is in their mind, what is the things that they're worried now. They want to increase sales in a specific product, they want to reach a new market, they want to target a new channel, whatever that might be, right? Or they want to reduce number of calls, whatever that might be, and start high level, right? Like, hey, you want to do this, I see this in the data, and you follow, and maybe asking questions or look at them, right? Like either it's in person now with the video conference. Hopefully they're on camera. You can tell, right? Like, are they nodding? Are they distracted? They go off on camera. You lost them. So be mindful about reading the people, not only what they said, but what they do with their expression. So keep an eye on that. And as you talk about, and again, start high level. Don't worry about the technology. Don't worry about the, don't talk about the tool. Don't talk about how you made the sausage, but keep it something that they care. And I think hopefully if you engage them, they're going to start asking more specific questions. Live demos, to your specific question about live demos are dangerous. So if you have PowerPoints are still ruling most of the companies. So if you get a screenshot and you put it there, and that's something that you prove it works, and know what you're presenting very well. So get a very good example, get a very good dashboard, get to know that dashboard very well. Because if they ask you something about that, how you calculated this, or how you come out with this, or tell me more about that example, if you don't know that very well, you're gonna lose that, trust, and the perception will change about the work that you do. And probably lastly, I will say, be your the evil advocate. What are the things that they're going to challenge me? What are the things that can go wrong about this presentation? What are the things that they might not like about what I'm presenting? I'm sure they're not going to like this. How am I going to convince them to like this? So don't prepare for the best possible scenario. Kind of prepare for the worst scenario, and that will get you ready for if some of that happen, right? Or all of that happen. So I don't know if that helped.
That was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to just jump over to a few questions that were on Slido. And so one was, what type of data do you work with? Where does the data come from? And I guess this is a few questions in one. And also, what tools do your 300 plus people work with? Excel, Python, R, SAS, and what mix?
Yeah, like probably any other big older organization. We're almost 100 years in business. So we have in different business units. So we have so many data sources, so many legacy systems. So data is all over the place, different quality, different shape, different format, different databases. So definitely it's a challenge. We try to consolidate and mirror a lot of those data points. We have data lakes, we have data stores and data mart, and you name it, right? So I would like if I say, oh yeah, we nail it, we know all the data thing, and it's perfect. So definitely it's a big challenge. Data engineers are way underestimated. I think we don't have many. We probably need more and better. We have great people. Don't get me wrong, but definitely it's a very much needed profession. And if you are into data engineering, you got it. That's a great place to be. We use a lot of structured data from like admin system, like kind of reports and transactional data and things like that. But we also use a lot of unstructured data like calls, texts, emails, a lot of third-party data. We acquire a lot of information about the market, about our customers. So definitely a lot of third-party data and try to combine with internal data. So in terms of tools, a lot of Python, R, still a lot of Excel. Probably something we are evolving, but still very popular out there. A lot of Tableau. We started more on Power BI. In terms of databases, Snowflake. A lot of we're big AWS shop, so S3 Bucket and SageMaker. So kind of try to narrow the number of tools that are used to make it easier for the team, but still different Databricks, different tools out there. We try to we're big into open source tools, like Python and R and things like that, Spark, but still we use a lot of commercial tools. We used to do a lot of SaaS, no longer a SaaS job, but yeah, I hope that helped.
Thank you. I see some feedback in the chat that Javier said, if Emmy decides to be a career coach one day for data scientists, I think he'd be very successful.
Thank you, Javier.
But kind of on that topic, I know you have served as an advocate for minority groups in AI and tech, and I was curious if that is something that you do for people to help bring them into the space as well. And if you have maybe some ideas for all of us about how we could get more involved too.
Yeah, I think it's diversity is very important in any space, but data scientists is definitely super important because we build the future for our companies, where we build the new capabilities. We are truly the future of how we're gonna do business. And by diversity, it doesn't only mean like a color, race, ethnicity, gender. Can also be diversity of background, right? Experiences, expertises that you bring to the company. So we have I'm the chief advocate for the Latino group here in Nationwide, and our executive sponsor is the president of the biggest business unit. And he said diversity is not only the right thing to do, but a good business decision. And what that means is, like, if you think about the demographic in US, I might get this a little slightly wrong, but 16% of the population are Black, and they have a $1.8 trillion purchasing power. And Latinos are close to 20%, with another, close to $2 trillion purchasing power. And you think about like a woman, right? Like half the population, a big, group growing and getting more into business and increasing the purchasing power. So it's a lot of money there that if you don't tap into that, if you don't build solutions, products for those individuals, and they think different, right? Like there's no right or wrong, but every group, they have their specific needs, their specific characteristics. And you need to understand those so you can tailor your products, your solutions for them, and they can, and they feel good about buying your product, right? Because they feel like you care about them, you are socially responsible, and you support their groups. And there's no other way to build those products than having the people that understand those individuals. So if you are in data scientists, if you don't have, think about a group that doesn't have any minority groups, white males, all nothing bad. White males are amazing, but think about like there's no diversity at all. So those individuals, they're not gonna know exactly how women think, or Latinos or Black, and it's gonna be very hard for them to understand nuances and specific things that they are very important for them. Right? They're not gonna understand that maybe language is critical, something in Spanish. They're not gonna know that probably data is biased or some of them, right? Like people building computer vision system that doesn't use a balanced data set and doesn't correctly train the models to identify properly Black people. They're gonna have a problem. Or people doing a speech recognition, building those systems to transcribe speech into text and doing a lot of solutions based on that. If they don't understand that people might have a different accent, different, way of talking, they're not gonna potentially use the right data sets to train the models right, and therefore not working properly for those groups. And those groups are gonna notice that, and they're not gonna be happy with that, and they're not gonna buy your products. There was public cases about that. There's a lot of with recruiting with Amazon and another insurance company with claim, when you needed to, record a video about your claim and what happened. And it was a bias towards some groups, and people didn't like that. And people are very sensitive, and they demand a lot, especially after COVID. So if you don't treat them right, they are gonna, and with social media, things as get shared very quickly. So if you don't treat them right, they are not gonna buy your products, and they're gonna switch very fast. So again, diversity helps with all of that, and how you can help, be an ally. If you if you are a leader, hire those individuals. You are going to have more powerful, better teams. If you are an individual contributor, ask people, mentor them, help them, and you will learn a lot from those interactions. So.
Thank you, Emmy. Andy, I see you asked a question in the chat a little bit earlier. Do you want to jump in next?
Sure, thanks, Rachel. Emmy, can you share about the open source R adoption path for your team? I kind of have a few questions here. So that open source R adoption, and did you get any resistance from IT in supporting getting R into production? And if so, kind of what lessons can you share about onboarding and supporting folks new to R and open source tools?
Yeah, it's definitely, of course, security and data protection is important. So when we have this dedicated environment, we call it Model Factory, that is protected. It has all the security controls, and we have R and Python embedded into that. And every time there's a new package, it gets tested. The versions, you cannot go and get the latest version or any versions that you think is best. We have an approved version for each of those tools. We test the packages. We have very long, like lengthy procedures of how to use it, what to do, what not to do, and we do peer reviews when people use whatever package or whatever code you write. They gets a review by one of your peers. And then before move to production, there's another team that implement that and validates that you don't incur into any security issues. Like a credential are managed in a specific way. You need to follow that protocol. There's a lot of things that I cannot share publicly, but there's a lot of controls around open source systems. So I think again we have a lot of we are big fans. It's cheaper, it's easier to have the talent knowing those tools, and people who like to learn those tools. But definitely a lot of controls to protect the data and protect the code.
So I'm hearing guardrails are important, and then just like peer support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Alan, I see you also just asked a question in the chat. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Hi, I had to walk back over to the computer. I'm pacing around in my office because it's cold in here. I'm just curious, Emmy, as you describe this great big team of hundreds of people, what kind of coordination happens across those teams? And is that a challenge for leaders of various teams to figure out how to collaborate? Do you have to have agreement about things like architecture or about practices and processes and stuff? Just wondering how you sort of organize across all of those people, and to what extent that's even critical, or if they're pretty independent.
Yeah. Again, like any other big organization, there's different groups in different part of the different organization across the companies. Like our data scientists are in finance, or data people are in technology. You have the data architecture team and the security team, and within IT or within finance, you have different groups. I'm in business, so I'm not gonna I don't want to lie, and I don't want to ignore that having different organizations, different leaders create some difficulties. We try to build a pods, group of people. So we want to make sure that there's leadership support for the project. You cannot start without that. There can be some test and learn that gets done more naturally, but you have a project, you have the support, you create your business case, you get the funding, and then you say, okay, in order to do this, I will need the data scientist, the data engineer. So a lot of this, yeah, you have support, you have the funding, but also you know, that's why I say relationship and building a network is important, because you need to go with those leaders and get buy-in, right? Like even though I might say, hey, my sales leader, you know, the head of sales for my business unit, it really wants to do this. But if I go and say, you gotta help me because I'm telling you, you know, I say so, you know, you that commitment might not feel that strong. So you need to go with them and say, hey, we're doing this because of this. And, you know, what you think about that. And yeah, you might need to fund their team or get, you know, like some resources for that. But then, but that convincing is important, right? The why is important. And then you go to this other group and do the same. And all you have these people. One thing I like to do is I'm not gonna tell them what to do. I'm gonna, you know, I have this philosophy that you need to be very tight on what is the outcome that you want, what is the objective, and what is that it will be needed. So be very clear on that, and hopefully they truly understand that, and you describe it, but then you wait for them to describe it, and you reiterate until it kind of sounds, you know, it's clear to them. I think that's the best way, right? Repeat what we're trying to do, and if they are still loose or not very clear, you gotta keep that message until they are clear. So be tight on that, but then be loose on that, how they get there. They are way smarter than me, so I will never
Right.
tell them, you use this algorithm or do it this way, because that controlling is not going, it will inhibit, you know, innovation, and they are expert. So be loose on that, you know, let them define what is that, what is the way, the how. The why and the what is important to be tied. The how, you know, they'll figure out, they're smart, but then be tied on the results, right? Like go back and be tied on, are we achieving what we wanted, right? And be very, very specific and simple in that metric. I hear someone or saw someone talking about KPI. So I want to increase sales. I want to, you know, reach this market share. I want to and make that metric that is simple to understand for the data scientists how to get there, but simple for the business to understand that, you know, we're achieving what we committed to do, or committed to achieve. So that, I think that's that's important for us. So keep, you know, tie, loose, tie, give them the money, give them the resources, give them the people that is needed, let them run with that. So we're starting getting very big into the project to product, not being very specific on the projects and have all the waterfall and all that, but be more on the product. You know, here is the product that we're trying to get out of this, and let them, you know, let them figure out, you know, the details of how to get to that product, and use the money and resources as they wish.
That's great. Thank you. I really like that description of like the articulation of where to be really tight and focused versus where to kind of let people run. And that can be really, really successful when you've got like skilled people and platforms to work from that they can use well. And, you know, you can let them be successful in the ways that they're really, really strong at, and know that you're going to get to a well-defined outcome that you're helping steer. Yeah, I appreciate hearing all that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks a lot.
I see a great conversation in the chat around like metrics, around dashboards, a number of things to show in them. And I think it's Yin Yi, and sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Would you want to jump in and ask the question you put there?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, the question is about how to build a story for the C-suite. Because actually we are building dashboards that on a management system. So the dashboard should be kind of fixed just for a bunch of metrics on that dashboard. But when we make a plan, you know, design the dashboard, this well, if we only put several maybe 4 or 5 metrics on the top and give a quick context. This might not be enough for a big company since the story might be fixed, but sometimes our C-suite might want to know other side or another story. So we are thinking about to put maybe 20 or more index on the dashboard, but of course the C-suite level, they will say, oh, it's too much. We do not have time to, or read all that long reports.
Yeah, no, great question, and definitely, storytelling is critical. I go back to the little kids, right? And you need to speak their language. They are not gonna speak your language. Go back to the kid. You need to talk to the kid in their language. If you talk about the Shakespearean language to a kid, they're not gonna understand you, and they don't care. You're gonna lose them. So listen to your leaders. Listen to the earning calls or whatever ways that they present to the organization, or whomever is the leader. Try to listen to previous conversation and pay attention to the words they use. Pay attention how they describe things. Pay attention to the things that the metrics that they share, or the metrics that they talk about it, and use those words. Words are important, right? Like you can say the same thing with different words, or you might have the way you describe something. Use their words. So if you can talk about, like we talk about the data foundation, but if you say data integrity, you might say, well, data integrity, data foundation is the same. But if they use the word data foundation, use say data foundation. If they say self-intelligence, you can use another word. Use their words so they can understand you, and keep it consistent. If you keep changing the words, or the way the views, think about like the in the old times, or even now Google, but think about like probably the newspaper, or the format, any website. But think about like the old-fashioned newspaper. New York Times, they always look the same. They have the same structure, the same format. The articles are, the layout is similar. So every day you go and read that newspaper, or your online news, it looks the same thing. Imagine if they will tweak things and move things around. You will spend a lot of energy and time trying to figure out, and that's mental thing that your brain is taking energy to figuring out the format and the structure, and you don't care about that. You want to read the news. So New York Times, Washington Post, they keep the same structure, they keep it the same. So all your energy is to understand the content of the news that you're trying to read. So the same thing with the storytelling and the dashboard. Find a way that the words, the structure, the metrics that they use and they're familiar with, so they don't spend time and energy trying to understand your dashboard, your story. That's something they are familiar. The only thing they're trying to understand is the story you are telling, right? Like, okay, the metric that you're tracking is going this way, it's going this other way. We might need to take action on this, and be very specific. You can don't say a lot of things, less is better. Be clear and concise, but be very specific on the things that you really care. Repeat throughout your session and throughout your dashboard, and then and be very specific about the action plan, what you need about them, and silence and doesn't mean agree. Silence can be, I acknowledge that, but doesn't mean that they agree. So watch them, look at their expression, and next time you go, repeat. And the one thing that we another mistake we make is that we go back, let's say you presented something last month and you're going this month to present the same thing. Recap. It said last month we talked about this. Now this is happening, and now I need you to know this or do this for us, right? We need your support. And don't go there thinking that they will they remember everything that happened last month. They know everything that is happening, in your work, and assuming they know that, because they don't. Whatever happened last month, there's been so many things about, like the kid, right? So many things has happened in their life that they're not gonna remember, what you talked about last time. Don't feel offended. It's normal. Go back to that and say, last time we spoke, we did this. Now we're doing this. Now let's bring it to the present.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, yeah, we need to do some recaps in the system. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Emmy. I love that. I have a tendency to think like, oh, we're gonna remember what we talked about last month there. I think that I love to stay on this topic too, because I see, Nessa, you had some great thoughts that kind of tack on to this idea as well. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in as well. And I don't mean to be putting people on the spot. I love when people just share ideas in the chat too. But Marlene, feel free to jump in with your thoughts on the topic too.
Sorry, which thoughts are those?
Well, no, I just see like I'm trying to read at the same time the conversation happening in the chat around this like user experience for the dashboards and thoughts that you and Nessa are sharing back and forth. So I was seeing if you wanted to share that.
I think so. There's like two components, right? What you show and what you say. And Emmy's hitting I'm just so appreciating. I think these things, but hearing them out loud from somebody else, with an organization that has their stuff way more together than mine. That's not a knock to my organization. It's just 100 years old and they do things like a 100-year-old organization. But saying the things you need to say is very important. So Emmy's hitting that right on the head. I struggle with, I want to do everything and do everything well. And I had to realize a couple of years ago, I can't do everything well, right? So I have to lean on people to help me with the visualization bit. And so that was the bit I put in the chat. So two people that can really help you is usually somebody in the marketing department who really have an eye for user experience, how something's laid out visually and how it flows. I get that guy to look at it. It could be a woman in your organization or somebody, non-binary, but the marketing guy, the UX guy, I ping him at least 2-3 times during a project to make sure, like, does this need major overhaul? Is this okay? Does it get the story across? And then I get somebody with finance experience. Doesn't have to be a bigwig in finance, even somebody who's just in the accounting department or finance. They could be different departments in your organization, but somebody who can kind of see the numbers beyond the data, right? So this trend, this upward trend, well, what does that mean to you? Like, oh, well, yeah, I could see that we might want to spend money there, or we need to cut costs there, right? So if they can extrapolate that easily from what you've done, I think you've done more than half the job. The rest is just the speaking. And then following, I want to say, like Emmy's kind of book of, keep it simple, stupid, right? Just keep the bullet points, or for those of you, I might date myself here, Dragnet, right? Facts, ma'am, just the facts. So just giving the facts and the takeaways, I think really, really help. So teaching a bit of a master class here, Emmy, like a TED Talk. I kind of want to just bottle you up and take you everywhere. Thanks for your insights.
Oh, no, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. And you're right. It's nobody knows everything. You need to check with people. You just be careful, because if you wanna get it perfect and you wanna check with everyone, you might get a paralysis, right? Because I need to check with the users. I need to check with this. I need to check, and then you keep checking with things and trying to make sure everything is perfect, and then you never get it out. So I used to have I was an entrepreneur for a little bit, had my own company, and I think that helped, because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have money. You need to get things out and start making money. So that pushes you to, I need to get something out so I can bring income. So think about the same as a data person, a data scientist. You want to get something out, so start producing money for the company. You're going to make it better, because you need to have the right due diligence in terms of security and accuracy and all that. But think about, like, you don't want to rush things too much, but you gotta get the money. So check with people, make sure that everybody thinks the same, but keep it moving, prototype it, get it out, ask for some feedback and keep making it better.
Thank you. AJ, I see you had asked a question earlier on different tools. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just curious of your development process, whether you use like a traditional Kanban way of producing content, such as analytics dashboard, or you follow all agile approach where you treat like one dashboard as its own digital product and continuously, every PI make improvements to it. Because I've seen both in the past. They have their pros and cons. I was just curious if you had opinions on which one works better than the other.
Yeah, I think it's at one point we're trying to go like a full, agile and follow all the methodologies used by IT. I don't think that was the best. I think that it has to be, we follow Cribs DM methodology but we realized that data scientists and the teams, they don't like the daily stand-ups and the full, agile concept. They need time to sit down, think through the problem, work on that, and so we give them that space so they can focus and spend quality time on the project. We try to not to bug you a lot and kind of protect them. So it's again Chris DM, a little bit of DevOps. Of course, when we implement the solutions, we work with IT and we follow their methodologies, their agile DevOps and all that. We use data ops. We started implementing data ops for the data part, and now we have ML ops for all the model monitoring. Is in production. So I think I will go with this building those pods and giving them the freedom to work together, and that has proven to be the best. Not try to go all in with agile and traditional IT technologies. Of course, the things that probably they hate the most is all the waterfall and PowerPoint status updates and things like that. They really don't like that. Of course, we need to share with management updates and know what's going on, but we don't force them, or we don't make them build this beautiful PowerPoint presentation to keep management happy. It's a lot of part of my job is trying to protect them, to give them the freedom and the time to focus on what they do best. That is not PowerPoints or having stand-ups and things like that, but to sit down and build algorithms.
Thank you. I see you have a fellow nationwider on the call too. Francisco, do you want to jump in with your question?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
All right. Hi, Emmy. My question was just basic, like general advice for transitioning into like a data science and analytics focused role, specifically for someone coming from somewhere else. Like personally, in my experience, I actually just found out I'm moving towards like that data and analytics role in like a recent team shift where I'm coming from like operational support. And I don't really have much experience within analytics and data science, studying operations in college, where my internships were mostly focused on that. So I was wondering, from your perspective as a leader, what advice and insight do you have for someone who's brand new like myself?
Yeah, don't try to be a data scientist, from the scratch. It requires a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge and experience and education. A lot of people, they go and take an online course, which is great, or they build up a little toy project and they want to go into data scientists and they don't get the job and they get frustrated. So start with something data analyst, start with something business intelligence, supporting the an area with some dashboard, some analysis, even if it's in Excel, build those projects that get you started. And then think about like how much passion or where do you want to go? Like if I think about myself, I was passionate about the topic. I've been learning, you know, always trying to learn new things. But I knew myself that I would not be able to compete with the data scientists, people that have PhDs, they're mathematicians, they're really good at what they do. If I would have gone into that track, I would probably have failed and not be as competitive and as good as they are. But then I thought about like, well, what are the things that I think I do best, and the things that it's like you have a new product, right? Go back to being an entrepreneur. You are your own product, you are your own brand, and think about like you will go in the market and compete versus Apple with the iPhone. You're not gonna make a good deal there. You're not gonna be able to beat Apple and be better than, you know, that build something better than the iPhone. So instead of that, say, what is the gap? What is that thing that is missing? And then they will say, oh, but there's not an app to do this. Then build that app that will, you know, make iPhone better. So think about that in your organization or in the industry. And what is that, you know, data scientists? Yeah, we'll never have enough, but there are a lot of good people, very smart. But maybe think about like maybe in my organization, there are not a lot of very good data engineers. And I like that. Maybe start being a data engineer because there is the need, you know, there's the market need. Again, build yourself a brand, a product. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but feel that need, understand that need, and try to fulfill that need. And then continue learning and continue, you know, figuring out what is your career and where do you want to go. So I hope that helps. Continue learning. Don't get desperate. But don't try to you know get pushed to something that, you know, might not fit with your career progression or what you can really do in the short term, and not get frustrated. There will be someone that or a position that might help you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I think
No
on this topic as well, there's a kind of related, there was a Slido question. Is there anything that you or your company looks for in new data science hires? So on both the technical and soft skills?
Yeah. And I put it on the chat, my LinkedIn, if anyone wants to connect, happy to do so. I think, you know, there's definitely the math, the technical expertise, the coding, but being, you know, being very analytical, like asking questions, be someone that cares about the business, someone that is passionate about that it asks good questions, think through like problem solving, you know, think about the problems and what is the thing that we really need to solve. So I think it's a combination, and some people are better at one thing versus the other. So try to fit, you know, again, your profile to whatever the spectrum that can be. If you are very, you know, into the technical thing, the math, you can do that. But if you are more on the analytical or the business translator, do that. But, you know, we are very rigorous into data scientists, and we have a very strict, you know, hiring process. So that's, you know, that and involve a lot of the technical expertise. And depending on, you know, like if it's NLP, computer vision, you know, whatever that might be, we have a specific process. But again, don't feel, you know, discouraged if you don't have all of that. Maybe find that role that fits your needs.
Thank you. I know we just hit the top of the hour and a few people have to drop, and I want to make sure, do you have a meeting you're running to, Emmy?
I don't, but I need to disconnect
Okay.
here quickly. So I don't know if any last question, comment.
There was only one last question, if that's okay, one that we had missed. And thank you for sharing your LinkedIn there for people to connect and follow up as well. But the question was, with so many data scientists, I assume a polylingual team, and you talked about all the different languages people use. How have you navigated the R and Python dichotomy, especially with respect to deployment solutions?
Yeah, or model factory environment is suited for both and other languages. So everything we build try to be, you know, to be flexible with whatever programming language is used, especially R and Python. There's people that are experts in R, others in Python. But a lot of that, you know, we as an insurance company, financial services, we're very heavy on R, but it's transitioning, you know, probably 70, 80, 20. I think we're 50-50, but moving towards Python. So people are trying to learn both, and they proven to be more successful if they know both. So not easy and difficult to have, you know, expectation to be an expert on both. But if you build expertise in one, but then know how to do at least the basic on the other language, that can be extremely powerful.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we got to everybody's questions. I'm sorry if there was anything that we missed, but thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Emmy, for all your great insights. This was great. And I see, if you can't see now, there's a lot of people in the chat saying thank you right now as well.
Thank you all for joining, and appreciate the time, and happy to connect, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And thanks, Rachel, for having me. Enjoy Florida over there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.